Yes, of course, that's according to so-called genocide convention, which was adopted under the United Nations back in 1951. There are the conscious destroyer of representatives of some ethnical or national or religious group, or making any kind of harm to representatives of that kind of group can be and should be considered as a genocide. And out of 5 official criteria, what acts exactly can be considered as a genocide, at least 4 of them were proved to be found yesterday in number of town satellites of Kyiv, including massive killings, including making harm to the mental and physical health of the people, including forceful deportation and other harm to people's life and health. So yes, this is genocide, but in order to prove that on the international arena with concrete facts, we need not just photos and facts gathered by Ukrainian NGOs or Ukrainian authorities. We urgently need representatives of certain international organizations, including UN, some subdivisions of OSCE, Council of Europe, International Criminal Court, on the ground, collecting and fixing all these proofs for further investigations and international courts.
Yes, the UN so often, though, finds itself without any power to act against Russia, which has been accused of other crimes, such as the downing of MH17 in Ukraine. How does the UN go about this? The Russia is calling for a hearing talking about provocation. They're going to want to present a whole different narrative.
Russia actually doesn't have the right, in my opinion, to vote for any Ukraine-related issues on the United Nations or especially in Security Council. And I think that international lawyers should work more precisely on the idea of having this General Assembly voting, which defined Russia as an aggressor, as the basis, as the argument to prevent Russia from voting for any issues touching Ukraine and Russian war, and to make it not possible for Russia to use its veto under the Security Council. But it demands from the United Nations officials and from the governments of the member states of Security Council to be, let's say, not only politically but actually brave, to say this concretely and to consider this issue under United Nations. Because as of now, we see that number of organizations are simply not able to do almost anything, not only to prevent further aggression, but even to react to already existing consequences of Russian presence in certain Ukrainian cities and settlements.
Yeah. Russia declared last week during peace talks that it would be, carrying out these withdrawals. Help us understand why these atrocities are being committed on innocent civilians, children, women.
That was a shock not only for international community but for Ukrainian civilians and Ukrainian authorities as well, because no one expected that such a massive civilian casualties and conscious cruelty against innocent people took place currently in temporarily occupied cities. But actually, this for me this means 2 things. First of all, this is not just Putin who is responsible for all these killings and for all this aggression. And this risky, in my opinion, narrative which is developing now in the Western media that this is just Putin, this is just Putin regime. No, this is army, concrete people who didn't have the concrete orders in every separate case to kill civilians. They decided to do that, and this is against all the possible rules and conditions of conduction of the war. So that's why not only Kremlin is responsible for these consequences. And the second argument was today presented in one of the state-owned media in Russia, RIA Novosti, where the big article was published, mentioning that Ukrainian state and Ukrainian nation should be destroyed, have to be destroyed. Ukrainian state has to be renamed. Ukrainian culture has to be destroyed. And what is it if not the appeal to genocide of Ukrainian nation? And I think that we all need some kind of braveness from the political elites in Europe, in US, in Canada, in other parts of the world to name things how they are, but not how we would like, or they actually would like to name it, softly and diplomatically.
Yes, it's just an unprecedented situation, which the President Zelensky continues to point out. You know, it's pretty much happening in Europe in 2022. You know, we see Hungary's pro-Putin Prime Minister, Viktor Orban, has been re-elected. The fact is, though, Russia still has its backers.
Of course, Russia has its backers, but I think that position of one separate member state of the European Union can be overcome with much stronger position regarding sanctions and other types of isolation of Russia if this position will be presented by the most powerful member states of the European Union and NATO. Before that, despite Orban was pretty pro-Russian in terms of foreign policy, he couldn't stop, for instance, the sanctioning of Russia. And if Germany, France, Italy will be much more stronger in their rhetoric, if they will agree to embargo on oil and gas supply from Russia to Europe, if they will support the idea to cut off all Russian banks from SWIFT and to continue other types of financial isolation of Russia, Orban will have nothing to do but to agree, because as 8 previous years proved, he had to compromise with Brussels when it comes to common foreign policy.
Maria, just incredible times we are living in at the moment. I appreciate your analysis. Thank you so much.
Thank you.